Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming. My name's John DeLynn. I'm the host of a podcast called Mormon Stories. My guess is most of you know that. It is, what's the date today? February 10th, 2016. And we are here to celebrate the accomplishments of someone who I think is really important to probably everyone here, and that's Jeremy Runnells. Everyone, let's give Jeremy a hand. It's a full house. I want to thank the people at, is it Club Cafe at 50 West? What's the right way to say it? 50 West, say it again? 50 West Club and Cafe. So this is Jake Jensen. Everyone say hi to Jake. We contacted Jake like 2 days ago and said, can we take over your restaurant for an evening? And fortunately, he and his bosses were willing to let us do this on such short notice. So can we all give Jake and his bosses a round of applause? Thank you. This club has invited us to show up periodically, let's just say every other week or so, to do what we're going to be calling Mormon Stories Live, which will be just a chance to do some live interviews with the live audience. We're going to be announcing that in the next few days, but we're super excited about that, and we're grateful for Jake and his organization for making that possible. So, without any further ado, I just want to say that, Jeremy and I have been talking for, months and years about his situation. And once the news broke a few days ago, we were all just really curious to see what the response would be. Obviously there's been at least 6 or 7 excommunications that I've paid attention to over the past few years, from Kate Kelly's to, Marisa and Carson Calderwood, to Rock Waterman, and many others. And so we were curious to see how the news media would respond. And we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. But what was most important for me was that Jeremy feel loved and supported during what is a very challenging time, even under the best of circumstances. Being involved as the subject of a very public excommunication is just never fun. And so my biggest anxiety, and Jeremy will tell you this, was just following the Facebook event invite and seeing how many people confirmed that they'd be showing up. And when it was only at about 15 or 20 when I'm driving here tonight, I was super worried that people weren't going to show. But this is a full house. We're at full capacity. People are standing in the back. And I just want to thank all of you for showing your support to Jeremy. He deserves your love and support, I believe. And you guys all showed up for him tonight. So please give yourselves a round of applause. And for those of you in Periscope land, thank you for joining us. You're excused for this evening because you're watching and joining us online. So thanks for joining us. And we'll be recording this for Mormon Stories podcast. So I also want to give a thanks to our listening audience as well. So tonight we're here. We were curious to see to what extent news reporters would be interested in this story. So we invited every single possible reporter that we could locally. Are there any news media here, either print or TV, that would be willing to raise their hands and acknowledge that they're media? So that's interesting. We have one. Okay. Are you comfortable saying where you're from? What media? Fox 13. Let's give Fox 13 a round of applause for, because as far as I know, the Deseret News or the Salt Lake Tribune have not reached out to Jeremy yet. We're a little puzzled about that. And And honestly, international media, national media, international media, to this point, are sort of saying, oh, another Mormon excommunication, what's the big news? But we don't think that the local media sort of has a good excuse to not be covering the story. So if any of you have friends or family in the Utah media, maybe consider giving them a little bit of heat for why they're not here tonight. Because I think if Jeremy's CES letter has been downloaded over 6,000 times, if anywhere between, that's right, and if somewhere between 13 and 15,000 people have reached out to Jeremy personally for help, we all know that the CES letter has made a huge difference in so many people's lives. This is very much a newsworthy story. So kudos to Fox 13 News for being here to support us. And again, thanks to all of you. So without any further ado, the purpose of this meeting is to give publicity to Jeremy's event, to help update listeners and readers and people out in the world about his story, to let him tell his story, to get more information out there, to draw interest, and then just have a chance to have a conversation. We have an extra microphone here, and we're going to do a robust Q&A where you guys can have a conversation with Jeremy yourselves, with me moderating, and we're just really excited to be here. So without any further ado, I hope you guys are getting served food and beverage. If you're patient enough, everyone will get served. That's the hope. So we'll launch into the interview. So Jeremy Runnells, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. By the way, thank you everybody for coming out here to support me. Last night was amazing, like the outpouring of support and kindness and generosity from everybody. So it really touched me, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So let's begin, kind of backing up a bit. How many of you listened to Jeremy's or watched Jeremy's Mormon Stories interview? Raise your hands. Okay.
Wow.
So most of you kind of know the story up until a few years ago. So we won't spend too much digging into that. Maybe what it makes sense to do is kind of get people up to date on where things have been since kind of your interview. I think what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what you've been doing in terms of enhancing CES Letter and improving it, and then we'll dive into the interactions with your stake president and your ecclesiastical stuff. So let's begin. We know that at some point you sort of put a request out to your reading audience to say if they would be willing to support you financially, that you would be willing to give a lot more time and effort to help CES Letter reach more people more effectively. So if you don't mind, why don't we start by you giving us an update on what you've been working on up until now, and what we can look forward to in the few weeks ahead.
Yeah, sure. So back in the spring of 2015...
Hold the mic right up to your mouth. Right
here like this?
Yeah.
So back in the spring of 2015, I put out a letter called... I like to put out letters. So this letter was a CES letter at the crossroads. And what it basically was letting everybody know that I was at a point where I just couldn't do it anymore, meaning I couldn't moonlight and work on this on the weekends and sacrifice all that free time and, away from my family and my kids. And so in that letter, I basically put two paths, Path A and Path B. Path A was basically drawing a line in the sand and saying, I'm leaving everything as is and I'm walking away. Path B was, there was a bunch of stuff I would like to do to improve CES Letter project, and this is what I would like to do, and I outlined a list of things that I wanted to do, and that if I received support and there was enough, people that wanted me to go on this path, that I would do it. And the end result was that I took Path B, and what I've been working on was a bunch of stuff for the CES Letter project. I'm going to grab a list real quick just so that I don't forget a lot of the items. One of the big things that I did was to set up a 501c3 nonprofit. And the reason why I did that, some people were perplexed as to why I wanted to set up a nonprofit for this. Well, one of the main reasons I did this was for legal protection. There's copyright material in the CES letter, and there's something that's called fair use, which allows you to use copyright material for the betterment in education, for society. And by having a nonprofit, it strengthens that non-commercial use, the non-commercial use of fair use. So I set up the nonprofit for that, but also to do other things. There's a history where a lot of good people who left the church, they set up a website and they, put out really quality and good information. For one reason or another, they either died or just weren't interested in doing it anymore. And they stopped paying the hosting fees, and passwords get forgotten, and so the website ends up dying. So I spent a lot of time and effort into this, and I didn't want to see something like that happen if I were to get hit by a bus or whatever. So I've set up a board of directors. They have my passwords. I trust them. So there's a continuation plan to keep this going. So that's kind of the idea. And this stuff costs money. It costs money to keep it going. It just does. That's just the bottom line. It's just in this world to do things and produce amazing value, it costs a lot of time and money. So, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each one of my donors for the last year for your support. It's still needed. There's still work that needs to be done, but I am in the final stages of getting things done. My goal is to get things launched in March. So a lot of hustling going on. So just wanted to put that out there. And the foundation was established on June 1st of last year. So if you've donated on or after June 1st, your donation is tax deductible. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get around to giving everybody tax receipts this year. I'm going to try my best. But just know that when you're doing taxes, whatever amount that you paid, it's tax deductible. So make sure to do that on your taxes.
Jeremy, let me jump in for just a second. How many of you here don't really know much about Jeremy and haven't read the CES letter and are kind of here learning about this kind of stuff for the first time? Okay, I'm going to just do a really quick, I'm going to jump in and just kind of catch everybody up to speed. So, and Jeremy, you correct me wherever I'm wrong. Is that okay? My understanding of Jeremy's story is that, what year?
Yeah, so 2012 is when I first had my...
Why don't you just spend a couple minutes telling people who are learning about you for the first time, just a really quick summary of how this all happened.
Okay. Just really quick. So I was a strong believing member of the church, and in February of 2012, I came across a news article that talked about members of a church leaving the church over history, and that really shocked me and surprised me. So I read and discovered that Joseph Smith was involved in polygamy, and I didn't know that, before. So I pulled up Google. I did, like many of you, pulled up Google, and started searching Joseph Smith's polygamy. And I started learning about polyandry. Then I learned about the Book of Abraham, and I went down this rabbit hole. So I was really disturbed, and I just put it on the shelf. And time passed. I did a lot of research, and I really struggled to make it work. I wanted answers, because the only answers I was getting, I don't consider them answers, but the only responses I was finding on the internet was apologetics. Now, apologetics is not official. They don't speak for the church. They even say it on their website. They do not speak for the church. So I wasn't interested in their answers per se. I was interested in official answers from the church on these problems. And so my family, specifically my grandpa, was concerned about my situation, and he decided to introduce his friend, who was the church's CES director. And the CES director emailed me, to my surprise, and basically said, lay it out. What are your questions and concerns so that I can address them? And so I pulled up Microsoft Word, and I started typing what eventually became known as the CES Letter. And it's basically a document outlining my questions and concerns about the LDS Church's foundational, truth claims. And I received a response from him saying that he had read what he said, the very well-written document, and that he would provide a response and get back to me. Well, I was excited because here was a representative of the church finally offering me official answers to my questions and concerns. Well, unfortunately, the CES director never got back to me. He never responded back to me despite telling me and my family members that he would provide a response to my letter. So fast forward.
For those of you who maybe aren't familiar with these issues at all, I'll just say very briefly, Jeremy's letter deals with issues like the fact that Joseph Smith, the story of the first vision changed over time. So there are multiple recorded versions of the first vision story that are different, and that's really troubling to people who actually have taken the time to read the different accounts and notice the differences. It talks about Joseph marrying other people's wives, Joseph marrying 14, 15-year-olds. That's troubling. Talks about the book of Abraham, how when the papyrus that the book of Abraham has been written from has been reviewed by Egyptologists, the word Abraham doesn't even appear in the papyrus, let alone say the things that Joseph Smith claims to have translated. It talks about problems with the Book of Mormon, its historicity, anachronisms in the Book of Mormon. So the fact that the Book of Mormon mentions horses, when we know there weren't horses during the time the Native Americans, were there during the time of the Book of Mormon. It mentions steel, when we know that there wasn't steel during the time of the Book of Mormon in Mesoamerica. Things like that. And so it deeply, in a very succinct way, over how many pages?
80-ish
About
pages.
80 pages. It's the most condensed, sort of concise, well-written, easy to understand, best aggregated resource that I think maybe we have to date in terms of being able to get up to speed on the most difficult issues most quickly. And that's what the CES letter was and is. And so take us forward on the story.
Going back, when I was writing the letter to the CES director, I posted my draft on a Facebook group to seek editing feedback because I wanted to make sure that the facts were correct and that I was presenting the CES director, correct information because I didn't want to waste his time and I didn't want to waste my time. Well, what happened was a lot of individuals in that group, as well as a few other groups, they felt that the letter resonated with them. So what they did is they took it and they started sharing it, amongst themselves and with family members, and then that started the letter going viral on the internet. So contrary to some people's perceptions, it's not like one day I decided, how am I going to create a document that's going to cause some trouble for the church? The letter was for the CES director, and it just caught on the internet. I spent exactly zero marketing dollars, still to this day, on the CES letter. It just, other people have done it. It resonated with them. It resonated with them because they have the same questions and concerns that I do. And their story is very similar to my story. They came across very disturbing information that the church has not shared with them, and they wanted answers. So I think that's a big reason why the CES letter has really resonated with people, is because I think I speak for them as well. Yeah, so the
So you released it what month, what year approximately online?
so it came out in it came out in April of 2013.
Okay, so it's been a little less than 3 years since you let it out. I've already mentioned that it's been downloaded well over 600,000 times. Somewhere between 12 and 15,000 people have personally reached out to Jeremy. It's made a huge difference in Mormonism. And so at some point, now let's jump back to the story where you've been starting the nonprofit.
Yeah, sure. So
What enhancements are you making?
I'm sorry. Oh, the enhancements.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I mentioned, I'm doing I set up the nonprofit. One of the issues that I had with the old website was that it was not mobile friendly. So I got penalized by Google
For mobile devices.
for mobile devices. So I got penalized by Google, and so that was a real problem. And I made the decision to revamp and redo the website that's mobile friendly. So we did a new website. We set up better SEO.
That's search engine optimization for those of you who aren't into technology. It's to make it show higher in Google searches. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I want you to expand on this. I also have worked on the sources. I'm trying to, as much as I can, get away from Wikipedia and provide sources that are accessible online and stronger sources. I've also set up a redirect system. Before I go off on that, I'm releasing a paperback CES Letter book. There's been a
So it's
demand
coming
for
out
that.
in print, so it can be read in print.
Yeah. So I've always looked at the CES Letter as a fluid document. I could quickly change it, add more information. So, for example, when I wrote the CES Letter, the church's essays weren't even out. It would be about a year, maybe a year and a half before the church's essays. So when the church started coming out with its essays, for those of you that are not familiar with it, you can read the essays at mormonessays.com. And so when the essays came out, I thought, this is a pretty big deal. These need to be included in the document so that my readers can see what the church is saying about some of these issues. So I added the essays. There was some new information that came out with, for example, Chris Johnson and the Johnson brothers, personal friends of mine. They came out with their research into 19th century books that are similar to the Book of Mormon. And one of them is the Late War, which is a very fascinating thing. I talk about that in the CES Letter. I added that along with the First Napoleon and a few other things. So as I mentioned in my last interview with John, I see it as a living document in terms of it's important to make sure that it's as accurate and as up to date as it can be to be as relevant. Obviously, if I left the document as is, the way it was when I first wrote it in 2016, without all the essays and all that, it would not be an accurate document.
As relevant, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So because I'm putting the CES Letter in printed form, it's basically committing it to static form. So I've set up a sources system, like a redirect system. So instead of a long link to some source, you would just type in cesletter.org/Book of Mormon /1. And when you type that, it will redirect you to that source. And
So to make it easier for people to refer others on the internet to specific parts of the letter, for people to post it, to share it,
Yeah.
and to discuss components of it instead of have this big PDF document
yeah,
to refer everyone to.
Yeah, like on that point, I've also created an HTML CES.
HTML version of the CES letter.
Yeah, and I think that would be easier than just a PDF to be able to access information and to point to specific spots and so forth. Yeah, I mean, a ton of work there.
That's a ton of work.
moving over, like it was .com because it's now a nonprofit. I'm moving over the domain to .org to make it more official. Also doing a new audio version of the CES letter. So things with the CES letter, getting the audio version.
Who's the voice for your audio?
His name, he's a great guy. It's Brett Menzie.
We don't know. Oh, Brett Menzie? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, really awesome guy out in St. George. So, yeah, doing some great work. I want to shout out to some people. Blake Buse, love you, man. He really came through for me in resolving a lot of technical issues and website issues and so forth. John Lewis for his support. Craig Healing, he designed a lot of the new stuff that's coming out. Yeah, just want to shout out to another person, Jonathan Stevenson. He is the administrator for the Mormon Historians Facebook group. He's coming. I consider him an expert in Joseph Smith's polygamy, more of an expert than Brian Hales. He's coming out with groundbreaking research that's just going to change the ball game in that area.
What's his name again?
Johnny Stevenson.
Johnny Stevenson.
Yeah.
Okay. He's been helping you out?
Huh?
He's been helping you out?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like that man knows Joseph Smith's polygamy like nobody else. So, yeah. So working on doing a Kindle version.
A Kindle version?
Yeah. And
Okay.
by the way, so the way that this is being done is that like the Kindle's going to be free. I'm not going to charge for it. PDF's going to be free. HTML, everything's going to be free. The book itself, I'm going to be doing what is called a pay what you want model. So all I ask is that you guys cover the cost of a book. And if you want to add more, you can. It's up to you. It's tax deductible. But it's not like I'm going to be like, oh, you have to pay $14 for this. It's basically what you think, if you think it's worth just
And
the
you're
cost.
doing that why? Why are you doing that?
I just feel that it's a more appropriate way to do this. And I think it would balance out. So I think there might be some generous people that may pay a little bit more. And then there will be some individuals that will say, hey, I have a lot of money for this. I would like a copy of this book. Can you give it to me for free or for a little bit less or whatever? And I can help them with that because, it balances it. I just think it's a more, I'm more comfortable with that approach.
Okay.
A lot of translations for the CES letter, translations Spanish and Japanese, Portuguese, Finnish, French, Swedish, and there's some others that are being worked on. I'm also including an update section on the website so that I can add kind of a blog style of new updates as it come in, so that people can see the latest updates. Yeah, we're working on a stronger social media presence. Specifically with Instagram and Twitter and a few others, Facebook. But there's a few other things. I'm probably missing some things. But basically, the point I wanted to make is, I didn't disappear. I'm working on this. I will provide an accounting when it's released, and this is only possible because of all of your support and your generosity. And I really appreciate it. And I hope that you guys will be happy with with what I've done.
Sure we will. So you're going to give us so there's going to be a March surprise. Are you going to give us a date that you can that you feel comfortable sticking by?
What is with the ex-Mormons and surprises? There
I
has
know.
to be a
Tom
February
Phillips.
surprise.
We'll have to blame it on Tom Phillips.
Has to be a March surprise. So
February surprise.
I'm learning from Tom Phillips' mistake, and I'm not gonna
Give a date.
Yeah, I promise that I'm working as hard as I can to get it out as quickly as I can.
But you're thinking mid-March maybe as a...
Again, I've learned from Tom Phillips' mistake.
All right, I'll let it go. What's that? Where can you buy it? The Deseret book. Where can you buy it? Yeah.
It's going to be on the homepage of the new website, so you'll be able to. there'll be like a book section, and there'll be like free download section, and it will have like all the different mediums, like the HTML, PDF, Kindle, and then have like translations. So a lot of work went into the design of it and the navigation flow. It's not. It's very complicated. It's not something you do in a day. There's a lot of planning. That's why I did a shout out to a lot of these folks I just mentioned. They worked extremely hard. I couldn't have done it without them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that update. Now let's jump into your interactions with your stake president. So maybe take us back to 2014.
Yeah, sure. So we're in October 2014, October 19th. So this is my first meeting with the stake president. I've never.
Ivins, right?
Huh?
Ivins?
Yeah, Mark Ivins. This is an American Fork. He's an American Fork East stake president. Yeah, so first visit with him. And this meeting was to get to know each other, and he wanted to understand what issues I had in my life that needed to be taken care of. So basically, you know, am I masturbating, or there's got to be something going on here, you know, and he's going to find it. So the meeting was really, in the beginning, it was focused on me, but it ended up with me basically machine gunning all the issues to him, specifically with the essays and stuff. I was really surprised to find that he didn't even know about, you know, Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon with the rock and a hat. Like, you know, his eyes.
He hadn't read the CES letter.
Well, he didn't yet at that meeting. So, you know, I explained to him that this is not anti-Mormon stuff. This is essays that the church released, confirming, like what I say, the church's essays are confirming yesterday's anti-Mormon lies. So yesterday's anti-Mormon lies are now today's church essays.
Yeah. And
So
and he had not, did he know about the essays, and had he read the essays?
he said that he claimed that he knew about the essays generally, but it was obvious that he didn't, you know, sit down and research it carefully and read it carefully. But he knew that the church released some essays because around that time the church had released a memo to the state presidents about the essay, like to let the members know about the essays. But of course, at that time, the essays were hidden on the website, so you have to do some research to find the damn essays before you do the research on the essays. So, yeah, so it's just machine gunning all the issues. He didn't know about the polyandry. And the polyandry, by the way, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, basically means that, in this case, Joseph Smith was married to other men's wives. So, yeah, that's pretty disturbing. But it's disturbing to everybody except for Brian Hales, of course. But, I mean, it's a non-issue to Brian Hales. I mean, if you have a problem with that, then the problem is you because you didn't study enough. You know.
This is Jeremy Unplugged tonight.
Yeah, well, I mean. Yeah, Daniel Peterson in his attack on me in Fair Mormon Conference, I didn't study enough. Yeah, so anyway, that was, so I responded to him. My response to him was you know, on my website. But so with the state president, it was just going over the issues and saying, look, this is not anti-Mormon stuff. This is verified by the church's essay. There's a real problem. It's not just me. There are members, I'm sure, in your stake that are struggling with these issues, and you need to be prepared for it, and you need to understand, you know, why this is a problem. And so I asked him what I was doing in his office, how he came across, you know. He said that he had heard about me through my Mormon Stories interview with John DeLynch. So, John, you got me in trouble.
Sorry. I have a tendency to do that to people.
So I but he said he didn't see the whole interview, but he saw enough, just enough to know that there was some problems with me. So, so yeah, and I asked him, well, okay, great, you've seen some parts of my interview. Have you read the CES letter? No, I haven't. I said, well, that's a problem, because it's obvious that you are judging me and something's going on here, and you haven't even read this product, or, this thing that, that I'm known for, or that's been put out under my name. So that meeting was mostly just an introduction, and we basically ended it with him promising to read the essays. Well, one interesting fact I want to put in is when I introduced to him to the concept of polyandry and that Joseph Smith did it, he hesitated. Like it was like this is anti-Mormon, Well, after that week, a couple days later, after that interview, the church came out with this Kirtland and Nauvoo polygamy essay, verifying the polyandry. So in my meeting with them after that, I'm like, so what did you think of the polygamy essay, verifying the polyandry that you kind of hesitated on? And pointed out, I told you that in our last meeting, it was an anti-Mormon lie. It wasn't verified by the church. It was easy to dismiss it that it was anti-Mormon lie. And lo and behold, the church has come out with this essay confirming yesterday's anti-Mormon lie to you. You were going to come after me for this stuff that the church just recently verified. There's a lot of that going on here. And I think that was a big point that really hit home for him. So the second interview with him was pretty interesting. He claimed that he read the CES letter, so I decided to do a little pop quiz.
This is good. This is really good.
And he had no excuse because he had the CES letter pulled up on his laptop right there. I think, and it was the laptop is really situated on his desk, really nice, like to where I can see it. The angle was just enough to where I can see it. Make sure that he had it up there. But I asked him, so what did you think of the other sections, part of the CES letter? He's like, I'm not sure. So I kind of gave him a pass on that because not everybody knows about the other sections, part of the CES letter. So I threw him a question. I said, what did you think of that part where Joseph F. Smith, Joseph Fielding Smith, basically said that no man is going to go on the moon. That quote, like, we're not going to leave this sphere. It's not meant for man to leave this earth. What do you think of that quote? That was made in Hawaii in 1961, 8 years before man actually landed on the moon. And he started going off about his opinion on it as if it was in the CES letter, but it never was. So he answered a question about the CES letter that's not even in the damn document. So I'm like, President, did you really read this document here? Because my confidence level kind of nosedived after after you answered that question. So he claims that he read it, but I don't believe that he did. He might have skimmed it. But, so yeah, after that, the meeting went on about, it was just a lot of back and forth. I asked him, really, what am I doing here? He presented he first presented the idea that he was thinking about holding court and threatened me with excommunication. So I said, President, why am I being threatened with excommunication here? What did I do wrong? He said, apostasy. And I said, apostasy? Well, what does apostasy mean? What does it mean exactly? So he pulled out his church handbook of instructions, and he read the definition of apostasy. And that definition is that definition lists four criterias for, sorry, I got a lot of papers. I came with my homework, like my documents.
You can just spread it out.
Yeah, I'll find it. But basically, the four criterias of
I'll
apostasy.
find it for you.
Yeah,
Keep
just
going. Keep talking.
Just find one that's like this in there.
Keep talking.
So the four definitions of apostasy, basically it lists the different criteria. I don't fit in any of them. The one...
Here you go.
Here we go. So, four definitions of apostasy. One is repeatedly act in clear, open, and deliberate public opposition to the church or its leaders. I asked questions, I shared my concerns, and I shared facts and information that are backed by the church's sources and the church's essays. So if sharing truth in publicly is in opposition to the church, I think that's a problem more to the church's position and its foundational truth claims than my talking publicly about these facts and issues.
Because by that definition, the church's essays are in opposition to the church.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have anti-Mormon stuff on their website. Like the reality is, when you get out of the matrix, you discover that church history is anti-Mormon, like truth is anti-Mormon. It's like this mind-blowing discovery paradox that just, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's the first one. I don't fit that criteria. Second one, persist in teaching as church doctrine information that is not church doctrine after they have been corrected by their bishop or a higher authority. Well, first of all, I'm not Denver Snuffer. I don't claim to receive revelation. I'm not a leader. I don't teach any doctrines. I don't even, I'm not, I mean, I don't, I believe that most religions are man-made, basically. So, but the key point here is that I am corrected by the bishop. So after that, my questions to the state president has been consistently asking him, what mistakes have I made? What errors have I made? Show me the mistakes, show me the errors, and I will publicly correct it. There's a few more mistakes and errors. I've already done a bunch of them. I have an errors page on my website outlining the mistakes in the original CES letter. So what's a few more? Like, correct me. I'm like, President, I am asking you to correct me, and you have not corrected me. And he never corrected me in my interviews with him, not once. Number 3, continue to follow the teachings of apostate sects, such as those that advocate plural marriage after being corrected by their bishop or higher authority. I'm not a polygamist. I don't like sects. Like, I don't like, setting up hokey religions. I'm a Star Wars fan, so. So again, he didn't correct me on that, and he didn't need to.
You said sects with S-E-C-T-S, right?
Yeah.
S-E-C-T-S, right? Just making sure. Everybody says
That's funny.
Sects.
I have a good excuse for that one.
For those of you who don't know, Jeremy is actually deaf in one ear and has a cochlear implant in the other. So we talked about that in the last interview.
Yeah, so I get it past and mispronouncing some
You can
words.
mispronounce whatever you want.
All right, and the final item is formally join another church or advocate its teachings. I'm not a religious guy. I don't set up religions or believe, you know what I mean? So I don't fit this criteria of apostasy, and you have not corrected me. So what am I doing here? And he didn't, he just never. So I still don't understand or know why I'm having this court. I don't know what the charge is. I don't understand, like, apostasy. I've narrowed it down. I've shunted down. I've shown that you can't take me by apostasy because according to the church's definition, I don't fit it. I don't match it. Am I public in my questions and concerns? Yeah, but so are a lot of people in 2016, the information age. You know, social media, the essays are out. It's just the nature of the beast. Like, the church is operating on 20th century rules in a 21st century paradigm. Like, it's just a mismatch. They can't keep enforcing these rules that just don't match the reality of an internet world. It doesn't match the world of social media. So yeah, so after that, the meeting was left off with, like, this was the first time I really began to saw the state president as the individual, Mark Ivins, instead of President Ivins. I saw a caring man, like there was a connection between us. He's like, I don't understand a lot of this. I'm not a historian, but I want to go find answers to help you out. Like, and it was sincere. And I believe he really wanted to help me and find answers, and that's where we left it off. I didn't hear that and I guess when you ask questions to church leaders, they disappeared. The CES Director disappeared, and he disappeared for a year and a half. So I haven't heard back from him for a year and a half until I get a phone call a year and a half later saying, I want you to come in on Tuesday, which is 2 days later, to talk about your membership in the church, basically. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I was excited about your call because I thought I was going to get my questions answered. So it went from my questions are going to get answered to, holy crap, I'm getting excommunicated here. So, yeah, it was just bizarre. And to add insult to it, I have a family member that is in hospice care, near death. He knew about that. I texted his secretary before that phone call when he had his secretary set up the appointment. This phone call was a follow-up to try to get me to, basically, the meeting. What I told the secretary is I can't meet Tuesday, but I can meet with you 6 weeks later on March 15th because I have a family member that's in hospice. Well, he didn't like March 15th. He said, I can't do that. I can't do that. It was really weird how he insisted that he had to have a meeting before March 15th, and he had to have it quick. It was as if there's some external force, some higher power, something going on, pushing the guy to get to meet with me sooner.
I just want to say that, I can't help but reflect on the difference between your experience and mine, because at least in my case, my former stake president, Mark Jensen, literally spent a year meeting weekly with me for an hour and a half a session, trying to talk to me, to share his perspectives, to resolve my concerns. In that sense, I have a ton of respect for Mark Jensen for really trying to provide pastoral support and care for me. And while, he eventually was released and Brian King was put in as his replacement, Brian King did literally nothing to try and help me. But at least he was able to refer to Mark Jensen's efforts. When I think about your case, your leaders have literally done nothing to try and offer you sincere pastoral care. It's just sort of like a couple meetings and then a notice. And I'm kind of sad about that, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's why I said at the end of that meeting with my state president, like, I saw the real man, not the state president, the man that wanted help, that these are real serious questions. So it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. There's that human aspect that has empathy and cares and wants to do the right thing. And then there's that stake president or, the leadership position where they have to follow orders. So it's like obedience and conformity is more important than morality and integrity. They have to just follow the brethren. Mormonism is based on authoritarianism. It's top down. You have to follow your leaders.
I think the way that happens is morality becomes defined as following the brethren.
Exactly.
So that's where
But
it
we-
becomes difficult, because they feel like they're acting moral because they're being obedient.
Exactly. But obedience is not morality. I mean, to me, like, it's not, like, we've seen it, like the church's recent actions on denying kids of, LGBT parents access to the church just because their parents are gay. That it came from a top leadership. And, it came to my attention, it's very disturbing. I found out that a member in my ward, a lady, got excommunicated by my state president, and I guess my bishop was involved as well. She is lesbian. They excommunicated her. And then, to add insult to that, they told her 8-year-old daughter that she can't join the church because mommy's lesbian.
That's recently, right?
It's recently. This is my state president.
Yeah.
But he's following orders. It came from the top. Yeah. It's just the nature of the beast. So that's where we left off with that. So going to the phone call, I specifically said, I can't meet with you before March 15th. I have a family member that's in hospice, and I just can't deal with this right now. I have issues that I got to take care of in my life. I had recent surgery on my right ear. I had an infection, so I had to remove my cochlear implant. So I'm half deaf right now. Just some issues. So, and
I'm glad your hair's growing back.
yeah, I had a buzz, so it was pretty cool. So he agreed to it. We had a gentleman's agreement, March 15th.
So he agreed to March 15th.
Yeah, and I said, have your secretary call me to arrange a time on March 15th. Okay, click. We had a gentleman's agreement. 2 weeks later, he emails me and asked me if my schedule changed to allow for me to meet with him that week. I said, President, nothing changed. March 15th is still the date. Have you heard anything to the contrary? Like, March 15th is the day that I can do it. Let me know. Let me know when your secretary has a time, and then we can set up a date. And it was crazy. After that, the email went from, can you meet with me, to, we are now going to call a disciplinary a court on you on Valentine's Day. So, and this happened on Monday. So, yeah, it was bizarre. There was nothing Christ-like about it. There was no love or compassion or understanding. It just felt very overly aggressive and mean-spirited.
Like, every morning I wake up thinking, at some point, they're going to stop shooting themselves in the foot. And at some point, they'll run out of really, I don't want to say dumb things to do that can really hurt them. They call a disciplinary council for February 14th.
Yeah,
you can't write this stuff. Like, if I were to write a fictional account about apostasy in the Mormon Church, that would be unbelievable, that they would call a disciplinary. People would laugh and say that's not believable. And yet they've done it. They're gonna take you away from your wife on Valentine's Day, and all the high councilmen away from their wives, and they're gonna spend all that time when they could be with their wives excommunicating Jeremy. I can't believe it.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
So anyway, sorry.
No, it's very good points that you brought up. So, so that's the situation right now. I have a hot date on Valentine's night. And, but I still don't know what the hell I'm bringing. I don't know why I'm going to court.
Well, okay. So when I was going through my thing and Kate was going through her thing, what I recall is that the church issued a First Presidency sort of update clarifying that apostasy, sort of extending the definition of apostasy to include acting in direct opposition to the church after being instructed not to.
I haven't been instructed not to. there is no not to or correction, and that's why I'm
So your
confused.
stake president never said to you, CES Letter's taking people out of the church, you should stop, releasing it or stop doing it.
I don't remember if you said something. I don't remember if you said something along the lines that it's leading people to doubt or something like that. But I would be surprised if that's the general idea behind it. But the thing is it's not whether or not it causes people to doubt. It's not me that's causing people to doubt. It's the information that's backed up by the church's essays.
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not that persuasive. I'm not a salesman. I can't change, I don't think I'm very good at changing people's religion from that perspective. It's the information itself presented in the letter that they can verify on church-backed sources.
And I caught my stake president a bit in this as well, because I got him to tell me, you have to shut down Mormon Stories, you have to take down specific episodes, you have to stop posting on Facebook, stop posting on Twitter. He basically said you have to silence yourself for the rest of your life if you want to remain a member. And the problem is it makes them look like, like they're censoring people,
Yeah, exactly.
like it's,
But that presents a fundamental problem. One of the cherished principles of Mormonism is the idea of free agency, right? So what do you need to have free agency? You need to have information. If you don't have all of the information on the table for you to make a balanced and correct decision, then it's not true free agency. So what the church is doing is it's grabbing information off the table for members and investigators to decide for themselves that they want to give 10% of their income to Mormonism for the rest of their life. They're hiding this information, and they are interfering, interrupting, and hindering the free agency of its members and investigators, and I think that's wrong.
it also just looks really bad. Yeah, definitely. It also just looks really bad in the 21st century to be silencing and censoring people. I mean, that's not the future of the developed civilized world. And so it's a catch-22. They can't tell you to take CES Letter down, or they look bad, but then they can't give you a really good reason as to why. So what does your letter say in terms of the reason why you're being excommunicated?
Yeah, so I got my letter from the state president today announcing court. And this is what he says.
This is like 4 days before the actual court.
He says, the state presidency is considering disciplinary action on your behalf, including the possibility of disfellowship or excommunication, because you are reported to have participated in conduct unbecoming a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So
it's no longer apostasy.
Yeah, well, it's that meeting with the state president was apostasy. I asked him, what am I doing there? And now, all of a sudden, it changed to unbecoming conduct.
Right.
And I don't know what the hell that means. I'm not.
Well, I think we know what it means.
Well, I mean, but I hate
It means speaking openly about doubts and problems. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's okay to have doubts, you just can't talk about your doubts publicly. Right? I mean, no, really, that's the line.
Yeah. So, but that goes back to the question. I mean, you look at the church, they say, oh, share the gospel on social media. I'm sharing the gospel on social media. I'm sharing the gospel on the internet. I'm sharing the church's essays on the internet.
No. Okay, so I'm going to put on my interviewer hat and just say, there's a lot of people out there who would say, Jeremy, you're taking people out of the church. CES Letter, you didn't have to put it online. It's constructed from start to finish to give people the information that they would need to lose their faith. You're taking people out of the church. I mean, that's what you're doing.
No, as I mentioned, the CES Letter didn't go viral because I spent marketing dollars on it. It just went viral because people wanted that information. They wanted to know the issues and problems that the church has kept hidden from them.
But you could have let the church provide that information in their own way.
But they didn't. It didn't exist. It didn't exist when that letter was written. The essays didn't start coming out. Like the first essay came out, I believe, like in late 2013, early 2014. And the reality is the essays came out because of these annoying people that wouldn't let it, I'm being sarcastic by saying annoying, but people, like from a church perspective, they're annoying, but people that kept saying, hey, this is a problem, church. People are dedicating their lives on incomplete information, and you owe it to them from a moral and ethical point of view to give them the information so that they can have full access to their free agency. They need that whole information to make a good choice.
Devil's advocate, they've now put out the essays. You can take the letter down.
I wish I could take it down in the sense I wish that the essays were complete and accurate, but there's a lot of omissions and there's a lot of inaccurate information in it. They do omit some big things, but they ignore critical things that put things into context and really explains what really happened. This is very true with polygamy, for example, Joseph Smith's polygamy, the 14-year-olds and the teen brides and polyandry, and it just goes on. There's a lot of omissions, and
They mentioned people a few months shy of their 15th birthday. Sorry. Okay, but honestly, can't you understand from their perspective that you're leading people out of the church and that that's bad?
Well, their perception is wrong. I'm not leading people out of the church. The information that they withheld from their members is leading them out of the church. I promise you, I'm not a good salesman. I'm not persuasive. I don't.
Well, some would say that the way you retell the information in the CES letter provides a malicious context that leads unsuspecting members down a path where, if the appropriate context was given, they would see the facts in a more empathetic or spiritual light, and that it wouldn't lead them away.
My response to that is the CES letter is not a one-stop source. I ask people to continue the research and information on both sides. The first thing I tell people to go to is the church's own essays. Go read the essays carefully. Read it on LDS.org. Please, read it. Go read Fair Mormon stuff. Go read Daniel Peterson stuff, Brian Hale stuff, all these other guys. Read it. Like, you're not an idiot. You can do it. Go, read it. Like, people that rely on just the CES letter, in my view, it's not enough. They need to continue their research on both sides, have a balance. It's much different. In the church, they tell you, don't look at the anti-Mormon stuff. Doubt your doubts. But we're telling you, read the church's stuff, read this stuff, have a balanced view of the issues. And, yeah.
Okay. So a lot of the people who are still believers are saying this is a huge publicity stunt. And by the way, you don't even believe anyway. Why do you even care that you're being excommunicated? This is just a circus that's kind of narcissistic and, trying to. What would you say to them? My stake person said to me, do you value your membership? Why are you even, caring? Why don't you just resign? It would make this a lot easier for everybody.
I didn't do anything. What did I do wrong to warrant a court or to be kicked out of the church? I'm still trying to find what the charge is. I've never been corrected. So in that sense, I don't feel it's their place to kick me out unless there's some legitimate charge or, I don't understand why I'm being kicked out.
But my point is, my guess is you don't really believe the church is true anymore.
Okay,
so why
yeah.
go through this big charade, this big circus?
Because to me, Mormonism is more than just belief, literal belief in the doctrines of the true claims of a church. There's a cultural part of it. There's a heritage part of it. There's family members that are part of it. I still attended social activities, and occasional church meetings to support family members and so forth. I was fine having my name on the church, the last couple of years. I just didn't feel a need to resign. And I would like to think that Mormonism can grow up like other religions, like in Judaism. If you're a Jew, there's different degrees of belief. You can be this Orthodox that your hair's, you can be an Orthodox, or you can be that
Reformed Jew.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same with Catholicism.
Be a cafeteria Catholic.
Yeah, I think the church should be a big enough tent to welcome, believers and non-believers. I think Mormonism is bigger in a lot of ways than just the beliefs. There's a cultural aspect. It really is ingrained in so much of your life.
What's it like to have a public disciplinary council where everybody knows that you're about to be excommunicated? What's that like emotionally? What's that like personally? What's that like for your family?
There's sadness, especially. I thought I was prepared for it, but just seeing the sadness of my wife.
Is she still a believer?
She.
If you were comfortable saying, don't answer if that's not good for your family.
She knows some of the issues and struggles with the issues. But
has she read the CES letter?
She says that she hasn't. So it's everybody has their own journey. It's scary to go down the rabbit hole for some people, but that's her story to tell. And I like privacy, but she's not a robot either. She knows that there's some issues, and and I think the reality is there's more members than we probably realize that are similar to that. They have some inner doubts that they're not comfortable sharing with the world. They struggle internally with that.
So you're saying when going through this, it's stressful on the marriage a bit. It's a bit sad for you.
It's sad from that aspect, but it's almost like I have front row seats to how the church operates, and I do not like how they treated me, especially the state president, the tone of this whole thing, how they're just throwing me to court like that on Valentine's Day. I don't know what the charges are. It went from, I'm going to get you answers to your questions to we're going to hold a court on you. It's just the whole thing just is not Christ-like. And so that is changing my perception a lot from a more personal level, even though it really has disturbed me a lot, the stuff that the church on the last couple of years, with how they treated the LGBT folks and the censorship and the omissions and the essays and all kinds of stuff. All of it has bothered me. So yeah.
What are your feelings about the disciplinary council process itself? Just the fact that they're excommunicating people like you.
I think it's a kangaroo process.
What do you mean?
I don't think it's an honest process, especially seeing how the state president hasn't gotten back to me with my questions and just is so eager to throw me in. And he didn't have the courtesy and respect with my, dying family member to give me some more time. He just has to throw me in court, and he just has to do it on Valentine's Day.
What do you think's behind it?
Oh, absolutely, Salt Lake.
What do you mean?
Somebody above him, whether it's the area authority, my understanding, the area authority over Utah is L. Whitney Clayton, which interesting fact is L. Whitney Clayton's wife was my seminary teacher in high school. And the legal counsel in the church is Lance B. Wickman, who was the guy that gave me my hearing blessing, that ultimately science fixed instead of
So Wickman gave you a blessing that your hearing would
that my
be
hearing
healed,
would be restored. But
and it wasn't.
it wasn't. Science came to the rescue.
Yeah. He talks about that in the podcast episode, if you haven't heard it. Okay, so the process overall, you would...
It's not logical. It's not just. It's inhumane, especially taking my wife and I away from our candlelit dinner on Valentine's night. What they do is they use it as a weapon against you. They're very vague on what you're going in, like this crap, like unbecoming behavior. What does that mean? And they leave it to the imagination of the members. You know, I could be this porn star that stabbed a kid at the gas station for all they know.
Somebody start that meme, Jeremy the porn star.
Like
The Zelf on the Shelf people are going to run with that.
They leave it to the imagination of the members. They don't. They use it as a weapon. They try to instill
To try
fear.
and make people think that maybe
Yeah.
you've done awful, terrible things.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
insane. I'm a moral life. I'm a good husband. I'm a good father. I try to do the best I can. And I'm not a criminal, but they're treating me like a criminal. And they're not telling me what the charges are. It's just an inhumane, asinine thing. And you said it really well during your court process. You said it's a 13th century solution to a 21st century problem. Is that how you phrased it? And
I said
agree.
15th century, but 13th,
Yeah, whatever
15th.
it was.
Right around there. Right
Yeah,
around there.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
all the same, 13, 15.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to talk about how you're going to be approaching this Sunday? Or do you want to not talk about that?
I don't know. I'm just going to leave it. I'm hoping that the state president will do the right thing. Whatever he thinks that is. And we'll just see how it goes. But
Do you have a preferred outcome?
the preferred outcome is leave me alone. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. Show me the charges. If there's no charges, then I didn't do anything wrong. Like, what am I being taken to court for? So I'm very interested in seeing what charges they have cooked up for me. So
How will you feel if you are excommunicated? Do you have a sense of how you might feel when that happens? Happy, sad?
I don't know. I'm not sure. That's something that I'm not sure. I mean, I think you've mentioned that you feel lighter after it happens. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm more concerned about like what they're trying to do. Like, what they're trying. Like, I'm getting the sense that they're trying to character assassinate me. So rather than focus on the CES letter and the mistakes and errors in it, they're trying to shift over to some kind of character assassination attempt in their attempt to discredit the CES letter. I don't know. Maybe they're going to... Like, I sometimes like to, drink some tea.
Did you say tea?
Tea.
Tea?
Iced tea.
We don't do that.
So I don't know. They could probably get me on that. But I don't know. So maybe my underwear is going to cause me to lose my eternal salvation. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you want them to leave you alone. You're not sure how you feel when it comes through.
Like, basically, show me the excommunicatable offense. So if they're saying, well, you drink tea or you do this or that, I would ask on each one of those individual things, is that an excommunicatable offense? Like,
No, I mean, we all know what it is. It's that people who are leaving cite CES letter as a primary influence for why they're leaving.
And my response to that, well, is there any what question am I being punished for?
I think they would say, don't do anything that leads people out of the church.
Well, the essays lead people out of the church, so why is the essay on the website?
No, but they would do.
But it's leading people out of the church.
Some people, but they're the prophets, seers, and revelators, not you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So
You're not buying it. You don't like that.
it's just a cop out. Like it's the information that's leading people out of the church.
Yeah.
And I know.
Yeah. I would say this to my stake president. I wasn't the one that slept with a 14-year-old.
That's an excellent point right there.
It wasn't me.
Exactly.
I didn't do it.
I didn't steal other
I
men's
just
wives.
talked about it. Right?
Yeah, I didn't take other men's wives.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so so there's going to be a vigil, 7 o'clock, American Fork Stake Center,
Yeah, East.
East. Jake, are we okay on time? Oh, okay. Oh, you're here for Q&A. Okay. What do you want to say to people about that vigil? Any guidance you want to give them? Like when I showed up at my vigil, there were these signs that said, "Down with, President King the tyrant." And Margie and I immediately went and ripped those signs up. I did not want anybody making the supporters look like they were rabid, angry anti-Mormons, because that doesn't do anyone any good. So I wanted people to be classy. Is there anything you want to say to the people that might show up for your vigil?
I think it's important to be respectful and classy. I disagree with what the church is doing. I disagree with the process, but members deserve respect. It's similar to my position. Like I don't believe it's right to hack email accounts and spamming the CES letter and all that. Just from a human perspective, it's invasive, and so I would hope that we would provide the respect and courtesy that we would in turn like for ourselves.
When you and I were talking early, I sensed that you were feeling some frustration with your stake president, and I tried to talk to you about the thing that you and I and everyone knows, in the sense that these leaders are victims of a machine. They're victims of a bigger process. Even the apostles inherited this tradition, and they were brought into it and raised in it, before they even had the chance to really consent. So is there a sense to which you feel sorry for the stake president Ivins and those who are involved?
I do. Like I said, I saw that man, that compassionate, caring, understanding man, at the end of my interview, a second interview, when he said, I don't know. I'm not a historian. Let's go find you some answers.
Yeah.
He even said, "I love you." Like it was. I think he was sincere in that. But then this crap about we got to hold a court on you on February 14th, and who cares that your loved one is in hospice? Even though I agreed on March 15th, we're going on Valentine's Day. This crap is not him. It's this victim, the stake president, that is following orders from on top.
So do you feel sorry for them a little bit?
I do in some ways, but on the other hand, in other ways, I don't, because I feel that I gave him resources to do something about it. I pointed to the essays. I pointed to the problem. He never gave me reasonable answers or responses. Yeah. So I would assume that there's that quote, an honest man will cease to, that quote, it basically says that when you find that you're mistaken, if you're honest, you will fix it and change. But if you're not honest, you will continue in that deception, So I feel like I gave him enough information through the essays, and he requested this information. He invited me in the office, that he should know that I'm not anti-Mormon. I'm not spewing anti-Mormon lies. That these are legitimate issues and concerns.
There's always a chance that the delay was him refusing to take action on you.
Maybe.
Possible?
It's possible.
It's hard to know. Okay, what do you make sense of the fact that the Salt Lake Tribune, Deseret News, Radio West, none of the local media outlets other than Fox 13 News have reached out to you yet? How do you make sense of that?
I'm not sure, but I would assume maybe it's excommunication fatigue.
What do you mean by that?
Like Kay Kelly and you and the Carterwoods and Walk Rodderman and all these people, it's gotten to a point where the media just kind of rolls their eyes and, oh, there's the Mormon Church doing what it does again, that's one sense. The other sense is,
Like
I don't
sun
know.
comes up, sun comes down. Mormon Church excommunicates people
Yeah.
who ask hard questions
Exactly.
publicly. What's the news? Where's the story?
Exactly.
You think that's what's going on?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. I think part of it is the New Hampshire primary.
There's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more important than this.
And we like, even though like Mormonism is kind of in the forefront in our lives, I think for the rest of the world they just kind of look at it like we do with Scientology. It's like, there they
Right.
go talking about volcanoes and
Right. So do you think this is a newsworthy story or not? For
I like to-
Mormons and for Utahns?
I think I do have a story. I like to think I have a story, and I think it's an important story in the sense of I just want transparency. I just want honesty. I think that members and investigators deserve all of the information on the table so that they can make a balanced decision as to whether or not they want to commit their lives to Mormonism, whether they want to commit to income, their tithing, and their time and talents and all that to Mormonism. They need to know all the information. And that's all I want. I just want transparency.
All right. So really quick, last question, then we'll open it up for Q&A. What can people do to support you or CES Letter or the cause, the bigger cause I think that we're all fighting for?
I don't want to tell people like what to do, whatever, but
No, but if people want to help, what can they do to help?
Like I said, it costs us money to do this. It takes a lot of effort. There's people that need to be paid. There's,
Sorry, I wet my pants.
it takes money to do this. I paid a lot of people for the time and effort into this. Like the website paid, the technical help and all that stuff. So it costs us money to put out a paperback book and all that stuff in a quality way.
So financially, you can still use help.
Yeah, I'm living off on this. So if the donation stopped, I'm in trouble. So that's pretty much the situation right now. And I'm doing it because it's important, and people think it's important, obviously, by supporting and donating it. So.
Okay. So they can support you that way. Any other things you would request or ask of people?
I need some help with translations. So when I put my new website up, I'm going to have a section about translations. So if you guys know some languages that I need help with, or know somebody that can do it, that would be really helpful to be able to translate it into those languages.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to turn the time over to the audience. Jake right here has a wireless mic, and want to invite members of the audience to ask Jeremy a question. Okay, come up to where Jake is.
My question is about tonight. What was it like looking for a venue for such an event, and did you get turned down by previous considerations? Also, I wonder about tonight's event. Jeremy, did you consider how this would affect, and all the publicity and the online presentation, how it would affect either your preservation of your membership in the church, or whether or not it would accelerate the excommunication that's looming over your head?
I believe in living an authentic life. So if they're going to punish me for living an authentic life, then, it speaks more to the organization than it does me. I'm not going to censor myself or withhold myself because of fear for whatever. This is me. This is, being authentic.
We were very fortunate that the good people at Club at 50 West Broadway were very supportive. So we only had to reach out to one venue, and we got a yes. So again, thanks to the good people here. We're 5% from losing our battery, and I don't want our Periscope people to lose out. Okay, good. Next question. Come up to the microphone right here.
Baby blessing style. This is a question for Jeremy specifically. There's recently kind of been a call out on social media, particularly the Zelf on the Shelf blog has kind of made a call out to, I guess you could say, closeted Mormons who are hiding their, lack of faith or things like that because of the CES letter to come out to those around them. And my question was, how do you feel that such a mass kind of coming out of all these kind of closeted exmos could affect the validity of the CES letter in the eyes of your standard kind of, true believing member?
So basically, the question affect the
Hold the mic up. Hold the mic up to your mouth.
like how it will affect the perception of true
Yeah, I
believing
mean, obviously, one tactic the church can use by excommunicating you is to be able to say you're an excommunicated apostate, so the CES letter is dangerous and bad. I think is that kind of the question?
Yeah, like Zelf on the Self specifically quotes, Harvey Milk when he said, if everyone comes out, everyone will see that, gays aren't these scary, sex crazy. If they all came out to, their family members and friends and stuff like that saying, hey, the people who are still kind of living in fear of that, if they all came out and said, hey, we've read this is affecting us, do you think it would change the way the CES letter is viewed by, true believing Mormons?
My experience is that it's not true believing Mormons that read the CES letter immediately. My experience is they have to answer a fundamental question first. And that fundamental question is it possible that the church is not what it claims to be? And that door has to be opened first. And I found that it gets opened most often through the church's essays. They read the Book of Abraham essay and they're like, whoa, the Book of Abraham is not what they told me it was.
Or rough stone rolling.
Exactly. And when and that opens that door, and then they're ready to look into, CES letter or Mormon Think and all that stuff. So I don't see the CES letter's audience being completely true believing Mormon. I see Mormons. I see it being more Mormons that have already accepted the possibility that the church's true claims might not be what it.
So once they're at the point of willing to actually read and consider, put on you, maybe isn't going to dissuade them from reading.
I don't think the church could put a label on me, but at the end of the day, people are starving.
Wait.
At the end, the church can try to put a label on me. At the end of the day, people are starving for this information. They want to understand. They want to resolve their doubts. They're seeing how ridiculous this idea of doubting your doubts, which, by the way, what if Joseph Smith, according to the church narrative, what if Joseph Smith had doubted his doubts as a 14-year-old boy? Would we have Mormonism? It's a ridiculous idea, and I think a lot of people see that it's not.
The other thing that's really hard is, as Mormons, we're taught to be honest. We're taught to be courageous. We're taught to love and seek for truth. And so what's really ironic is it's these values that are very Mormon that lead us many times to pursue the truth that then gets us in trouble.
Yeah, like on that point, I'm a product of Mormonism because I was raised with the idea to seek truth wherever it is found. This idea that the glory of God is intelligence. My patriarchal blessing, there was a part in there. I haven't showed anybody before, except for close family members, but this is what defined me, and I kind of joked that it's my patriarchal blessing that ended up creating the CES letter and leading me to this situation. But just to read a few important, relevant parts. I bless you that you may grow in your knowledge of the gospel, that you may come to a clear understanding of the principles of the gospel which Father would have you know. I bless you with the knowledge which you gain, you may be able to use it to teach and instruct other people in the gospel of Jesus Christ. In the pre-existent times, one of the good things which you did was to assist others to understand the principles of the gospel and to make good, correct choices. On this earth, this is also one of your assignments and callings and missions of life, to teach the gospel principles to other people. Therefore, learn the principles of the gospel, read the scriptures, and so on. And then another important part, I bless you that you may have a spiritual gift given to you to assist you in your purpose and mission in this life. And this particular spiritual gift for you will be the gift of knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge that you may learn in both spiritual and temporal matters and impart them to others. And so,
There's one patriarchal blessing that actually came true.
yeah, so I bring up that point because that's where I got my confidence to ask questions, because I expected that the answers were going to be on the other side and the church was going to be victorious and all that. You know what I mean? So that's the mindset I was, to seek truth, to have confidence that I'll get that knowledge and I can share it with other people.
Do you have a follow-up?
I guess just as one more follow-up to that, is there any way in which you would like to see the CES letter shared, or are there any guidelines? Because, I mean, we've seen lots of different weird ways that people have tried to...
People are like putting it on the windshields of cars in church parking lots.
Yeah. I don't
Hacking
imagine
email
that's
accounts and
something-
sending them to entire wards or stakes.
Yeah, like
Sounds
there
like
was-
you don't condone that behavior.
Yeah, the recent email sermon where somebody hacked into this email account and emailed the entire state. That's a problem. Like, I understand that the document is a Creative Commons. It means that it's public. I don't own it, and so I'm not naive to think that I can control a public document. But I'm just saying that let's just be respectful here. That's not a respectful way of doing it. Like spamming people. It's not only disrespectful, but it's also extremely ineffective. I'm a marketing professional, so it's just not effective. It turns people off. So.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Jeremy and John. So I went through a situation very similar to you guys, okay? I was also excommunicated for sharing questions and things like that. So I didn't hear anything about your bishop. See, I was really fortunate. I had a bishop who was like really like my advocate, and then the stake president really kind of wasn't, right? Did you guys have that? Or is it only the stake president?
My bishop, my former bishop was sort of antagonistic towards me, but he wasn't prepared to handle me, and so he passed me on to my stake president pretty quickly because it wasn't working out well for him. My second bishop met with me once, told me he was initiating a new investigation, the third investigation over 10 years, and basically I told him, as far as I'm concerned, just don't consider me sort of under your jurisdiction anymore. I won't be having any further conversations with you in the context of an investigation. So that made it so it had to go to the stake president. That was my situation.
Yeah, like my bishop just quickly pointed me to the stake president, and then it was pretty straightforward. And then the stake president didn't really understand me or what was going on. Didn't even read the CES letter, so there had to be an educational process. But then I think it got to a point where Salt Lake kind of stepped in and said, "Hey, this dude is, let's X him on Valentine's Day,
Okay, and I just have a quick follow-up. So you had alluded to a higher power being involved in you being invited on Valentine's Day. And so, I'd like to know about yours as well, John. My bishop said to my stake president, he goes, "Tyson, why don't you just resign?" And the stake president said, "No, there's higher powers involved." And said there's a general authority that's specifically, ordering the excommunication, whatever it was. Anyway, so I'm just wondering, I mean, I know you think there's somebody there. I think there probably is. John, did you have that experience as well?
Yeah, L. Whitney Clayton visited my stake twice in the 6 months leading up to the new investigation. He met once at a state conference I attended. I recorded his presentation. He talked about the good ship Zion, even back then, and how you need to stay on the boat. And then he came a few months later, dismissed my stake president, called a new one, and offered training for the leadership in the stake on how to deal with apostates. So that all happened, and we know that he visited Kate Kelly's stake right prior to her excommunication. We know that he was involved in Denver Snuffers excommunication. So L. Whitney Clayton is absolutely, in my view, the hatchet man that's behind all this stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah, I share that. I agree with that. L. Whitney Clayton is, I consider him the top dog, like in terms of getting involved with this court. I don't have direct knowledge in terms of the actual, like, yes, he's directly involved, but based on the state president's actions, it's pretty obvious. And I've read some stuff on Reddit on, individuals talking about, like, there's state president fathers, some having knowledge about the leadership being involved in this. So,
one quick follow-up. This is just new information. As some of you will know, I received my first letter from my stake president in June of 2004. Shamed him into meeting with me by going to the New York Times. Met with him in July once. He said that he wanted a quick decision. It wasn't until August that we met the second time, where he gave me the conditions for continued membership. It was another 6-7 months until the February, a year ago, basically this week, where I was actually excommunicated. So, and I've heard through independent sources that he has been telling people that he did not want to excommunicate me, but that he was sort of forced into it. So that's the word that I've been hearing, that he's been telling people sort of indirectly.
yeah, and that's the vibe I've been getting from my state president. Like, after my meeting with him, he disappeared for a year and a half, and the impression I got was he was just as happy to pretend I didn't exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So the vibe I'm getting is he just wants me to, like, I don't exist, but he received some kind of pressure to where he's getting himself in this uncomfortable situation. So,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hi. First of all, John and Jeremy.
That's his Reddit handle.
Just wanted to say thank you very much for providing this opportunity for all of us to come. And I really appreciate the way that John in his interviews is able to kind of ask adversarial questions. And I feel like that is helps us to better consider our views from the outside. So in that sense, I want to ask a question. The first one is a fill in the blank, and it is, those who leave the church can't
leave it alone?
Yeah. So what would you say to, because I have gotten, people don't directly ask that or mention that to me, but that is the vibe that I get after leaving the church. And I know you have decided to continue your membership in the church, but how do you feel about that kind of statement, and what does it mean to you?
I consider I consider the term "you can leave the church, but you can't leave it alone" as an asinine, Orwellian, doublespeak idea. It's a form of censorship. What they're really saying is, all you guys that know about these problems to our foundational truth claims, we want you to disappear. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to try to find answers to this. Too troubling. Just disappear, leave it alone. Like, what they're really saying is, this is a weak spot. We're not comfortable. We're going to try to turn this around on you. It's a very Orwellian it's just asinine. I think it's a ridiculous idea. The reality is we can't leave it alone. The church is not leaving us alone. In general conferences, they disparage and put down people that have doubts. Like, we don't live in a vacuum. We still have family members that are in, and they are watching these general conferences. So the church is affecting our relationships with these, loved ones that are still in. the church is still disparaging us to them with its teachings that, we're dark and loathsome and we lost the spirit, when the reality is we came across disturbing information. So until the church stops disparaging us and starts answering questions and stop putting wedges between married couples and families and relationships, they have no right to say to leave it alone.
And one last thing is there's been
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I
No,
want to
that's
answer too. In addition, Mormons more than anyone should understand the missionary impulse. The Book of Mormon is very clear. When you eat the white and delightsome fruit, what's the first thing you want to do? Share it. Now, I will just say that I understand that different people experience joy from different things. But if we've discovered something that's true, that's meaningful, that's relevant, that could affect who you marry, when you marry, what you study, what careers you choose, how many children you have, when you have children, how you plan your life, how you spend your money and your time. If you have information that impacts those crucial decisions, if I love you, I'm going to share that information. That's love, right? That's what love is. And so they send 85,000 missionaries out into the world to preach their truth. That's fine. Let them do that. But then we're not allowed to talk about our truth? That makes no sense, right? Yeah. So that's my answer to that.
And my final question was, a lot has been said about whether your stake president's decision to go with the council has been influenced by outside forces, whether general authority or someone higher in the church. The church has made its position known that it does not interfere in local matters. It leaves these kinds of decisions up to the local leaders. Why do you think it is that the church finds it important to make that claim or make that known? Why do they even really care? Why don't they just say, oh yeah, sometimes we tell bishops to excommunicate so-and-so or something?
So can you clarify the question?
Yeah, he's asking, why does the church continue insisting that these are local decisions when we all know that the church is likely involved?
Plausible deniability. They don't want to be associated, they want to leave it to these local guys and not affect the reputation or the image of these prophets, seers, and revelators. Because if the accused or the excommunicated comes up with damning evidence to show that they were mistreated or whatever, and it's tied to the top 15, it dents that image as prophets, seers, and revelators.
Yeah. It goes back to Mountain Meadows Massacre. It was great for them to be able to say, John D. Lee did it. That just gives them an extra out. I've heard that there are legal implications if something inappropriate happens at the local level. Having a corporate arm's length distance from those decisions just protects them from certain liabilities. I also think that there's a genuine, the brethren can't be making every decision. So there's a genuine desire and belief that all they're doing is teaching correct principles and letting people govern themselves. That's the only way the church is going to work. And I think they sincerely do want people developing their own ability to communicate with the divine and to get their own direction and to not need to be commanded in all things. So that would be my attempt at being sort of fair and compassionate with the leaders.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your questions.
All right, I think people are starting to wind down. We were over 1,000 on Periscope. We want to thank all the Periscope watchers.
Hi,
We're
guys.
down to 811 on Periscope. People are starting to leave. So maybe we'll have, how many people are in line? 2 more questions, 4 more questions, and then we'll be done. Okay.
Okay, so I was just wondering, ever since the letter came out, has your lives have they been greater ever since then? And if so, how?
Have they been what?
Since the letter came out, has your life been better? Is that the question?
Yes, it exposed me to a bunch of really good people. I got to hear their stories. It has put me given me front row seats, front row view to this real crisis, to the church's truth crisis and how it's affecting families. And just being in a position to where I can help, I see it as a form of service, just to help alleviate suffering and help those that are doubting. Give them resources. They want to stay in the church. Awesome. I have no problem with that. They want to leave because they feel that it's better for their well-being. Awesome. But I get a lot of joy in helping people, and So the answer is yes. It's gotten better from being able to help people, and as well as to be more authentic. I don't have any cognitive dissonance anymore. If I do, I try to resolve it. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of cognitive as a member, like trying to resolve these doubts and align it to the church's, claims. But to not have to deal with that anymore, it's a peaceful way of life,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It kind of makes me think of like, Robin Hood, how it's like they're the rich and like they think that we're the bad guys, but really we're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Rick.
Years ago, I went through this process, and they called it a court of love. I'm just curious. A few hours ago, I read a post by Grant Palmer, who posted that he'd been involved in counseling the prisoners at the Utah State Prison for decades. And during that process, there were hundreds of people. About half of them were LDS. Only about 20 of them had gone through any sort of church court. So we have murderers and rapists and felons and so forth that have not been called to a church disciplinary council. My question to you is, has there been any time in your process, either of you, that the church has said, this is for your best good, this is your process of repentance and getting better, as compared to what is best for the church? My question is this a council of love, or is this what is best in the church's interest?
In my case, it's what they think is best for the church. I've never been called to repentance or given any charges or any errors or mistakes to correct. So it's obviously an agenda to do what they think is protecting the church. To me, there's no Christ in this. There's no love or compassion or all the things that I've learned growing up Mormon in this. So it's.
That's what I thought. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
First of all, it's just another thank you to both of you for all the time and effort you put in to put this together, and the years of effort you put in to help a lot of us through this transition here. But my question, it may be a personal one, so feel free to abstain from answering it if it gets a little bit too personal. But I think a lot of us have an initial crack in our shelf that kind of leads us on this path to where a lot of us are now. Mine personally was that my very, very best friend in my late teens happened to be a black homosexual. And so the teaching from the church was kind of contradictory to my own life experience at that point, because this person was, I dare say, much better individual and a much better person than even a lot of my Mormon acquaintances I knew at the time. And so that kind of began to be the beginnings of the cracks in my own shelf. So my question I pose to both of you are, what were some of your initial cracks in your own shelves that kind of led you on the path to get you where you are here today?
So what was my initial cracks in the shelf?
Yeah, cracks in your shelf.
Polyandry and Book of Abraham. It snowballed, obviously. As most of you know, it snowballs. And basically, the cracks on my shelf are outlined in an 80-page document.
I'll be sure to check that out.
For me, honestly, I've thought a lot about this. The first real crack in my shelf was when my parents got divorced, because I would sit up there on the primary stand or on the stand at church during the primary program, and we'd be singing "Families Can Be Together Forever," and I'd see my mom crying in the, because my dad had just left her, and I was wondering what was going to happen to my family. And what that made me feel is sympathy and empathy for all the people that fell outside this tight, neat little plan that apparently Heavenly Father had created for less than 0.5% of his children. And I remember doing the math of dividing 10 million by 5 billion back in the 80s or whatever it was, and coming up with that percentage. That was the first crack, actually, for me. My mission was the second crack when I saw just openly fraudulent baptismal practices that were just disgusting, and then saw that the church, when they were informed about them, the church completely covered it up and didn't want to deal with it, and left my mission president in to continue those practices. And then, fast forwarding to sort of when I was at Microsoft, I had a cousin sit me down and explain to me the story about the papyri in the Book of Abraham, and I was blown away. No one had ever told me that story, that the papyrus still existed. And then, polyandry sort of was like the knock on the head, I didn't know about that till 2000, 2001, and that's what did me in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I don't envy you on Sunday.
Awesome.
Yeah. I hope you know that we're with you. Years before you published your letter, I had the same questions. I was at BYU, I was in grad school. I was very vocal about them because I love the people around me. Next thing I know, I'm in court. A dozen guys around the room, and they just fire insults at me. And I didn't feel I was represented very well because it was just me. I had no idea how to do it. So, for you, is there a possibility that you can bring legal counsel to represent your position and help you?
To bring legal counsel to help my position?
I know it's off the wall, but is it possible?
Like, to help me in what way?
In the court, so it's not just a dozen guys
So,
browbeating
like, bring
you.
legal counsel into the court
Yeah,
on Sunday?
yeah.
But based on my understanding, they control that environment. Like, you have to tell them what witnesses you want to bring and all that kind of stuff. It's not like you can just bring anybody in there. But yeah, I mean, I'm under advice of legal counsel. I have an attorney advising me how to navigate this. So
It's just an idea. If it helps, great. If not, whatever.
yeah, I mean, it does help. He's given me critical advice that I think is important to adhere to. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes and what they do and what they cook up. If it's something that's extremely outrageous and just not true, then yeah, we have a problem, because I'm not going to tolerate that kind of stuff.
Thanks.
When I went to my council, they started with this letter making me promise that I wouldn't record, making me sign and promise that I wouldn't record the proceedings. And they made it very clear that I was not needed for the council. And so if I wasn't willing to abide by all their rules, they would be very glad to dismiss me and to hold the council without me. And I think that's exactly what they would do if Jeremy tried to, bring in support that wasn't sanctioned.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, ma'am. That's awful. That's egregious. Let me give you a microphone.
I just want to say two things, well, maybe three, but thank you to you both. Jeremy, I think you should continue on the job application and see how far that takes you with the church. If nobody saw that, they can look it up. The church has offered him a job, kind of.
Yeah, for those of you who are not unfamiliar, I got an email this morning from an ODS recruiter about a job position with the church. So I was like, So I put up on Facebook that screenshot, and I said, well, LDS Church, which is it? Do you want to hire me or fire me? With hashtag worst Valentine date ever.
Right? Okay. And the other thing taught in the gospel, we should out in our minds and do all of that work. And it seems that you've done that. And I think you should take your patriarchal blessing with you on Sunday and read those same passages to them, and maybe they'll sit there a little bit dumbfounded. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I agree.
Okay. I actually want to add one last thing before we end, because we've talked about hard things tonight. You know, it's really hard. I'm sure we have people across the belief spectrum here, and that's always a challenge. These are sensitive, sacred topics for people, and I'm sure that this is hard stuff to hear if you're on the believing end of the perspective. So if any of you are believers and you're here, I just want to tell you you're awesome and you're courageous, and we're glad you came, and thank you for coming. And you know, I hope we tried to have as good of a positive as a tone as we could, given that we're talking about really candid and raw and hard things. But since we've been talking about really hard things, really sad things and kind of negative things, I want to end on a positive note. So I want to invite 5 people to come up to the microphone really quick and let Jeremy know how he's been a positive influence in your life. So just run up to the microphone, and women are very welcome as well. Please let's end with a few positive messages to Jeremy, because what cavalier as we can be about it, it's a very heavy thing to be excommunicated by the Mormon Church. It's not fun, it's emotionally draining, and it's sad. Let's leave Jeremy with just a little bit of love before he embarks on that journey. Clay Christensen, everybody.
Hi. Jeremy, I wasn't planning on drawing any attention myself or coming here, but when my wife heard about this, she said, you've got to go up there and you got to be there. And I said the same thing. I wouldn't miss this. 3 months and 2 days ago, I had no idea of anything that was in the CES letter. I had watched the Book of Abraham video, and somehow I put that on my shelf. If you hadn't have taken and compiled all that information in one easily accessible place, I wouldn't have had a chance to do it. I wouldn't have had a chance to see it. And so because of your work, my wife and I are happily outside of the church, and my children, you've united our family in a way that the church never could. And thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I owe you so much. I left many years ago before your work, and I've been married to my husband for 20 years, and we stayed together for 8 years while I waited for him to come out, and he did because of the letter, and all my children are out too. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for the amazing opportunity, because I had always struggled with a lot of things in the Mormon Church. I have 2 moms, and so it's very hard for me to relate to anyone in the Mormon Church because of that. And because of your letter, I've been able to meet so many different people and to know that I'm not alone because of that support group. So I just want to thank you so much for that.
I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't have found your letter. I struggled with a lot of issues in the church and guilt and other feelings, and I found your letter, and I hadn't found anywhere else where it put issues, but to find it all in one place like that and find it well-sourced and well-researched and very well-written and thought out helped me really kind of put a period on my time there, and I was able to resign and kind of feel at peace with it. And I'm so much happier now, and there's still struggles and things, but I'm very, very happy and so grateful for the work you've done. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Jeremy, thank you. That's kind of, I guess, the most powerful words I could say. When I came across your letter, I guess the edgiest I say could have been at that point was I had unsubscribed from our LDS and subscribed to our Mormon. And I don't know who it was, but somebody linked your letter at some point, and that is what took me on this path that I am here today. And around the time of the new year, I was speaking with my girlfriend who's living with me right now, and I told her, I think 2015 might be the best year of my life, and that's due to a lot of different factors, but a major factor is that I feel that I'm now completely free of the LDS Church and any standards or rules that they might be thrown upon me, or expectations, I guess I would say. So your letter has led me to that path, so thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the work that you have done. That was like an incredible accomplishment to bring all of those things down together in one place where you can just point somebody there and say, just take a look at this. Thank you so much. And by the way, obedience is the first law of dictatorship.
Thank you.
Jeremy, thank you. That's the biggest thing. I have 5 beautiful children and a husband. And when I started doubting and thinking that things were wrong with the church, I was afraid of losing eternal salvation. I was afraid of what if I was wrong. The CES letter showed me I wasn't wrong. It took away a lot of fear and brought me a lot of peace. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for everything, and good luck going to battle. We're all behind you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm going to add my thanks as well to both of you. A year ago, my daughter, who's 33 years old, was questioning church. Well, she had been for quite a while, and her and I were fighting, and I wanted to answer all of her questions so that she would stay in the church, because that's the only way to true happiness. So she handed me your letter and told me to listen to your podcast, and now we're all out, and that has been we're the happiest that we have ever been. So thank you. And really, I'm sure that Sunday will be very difficult. And I hope that you will look around this room and that you can close your eyes on Sunday and feel so much love and support from all of us. And a big thank you for all that both of you have done. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
So Jeremy Runnells, from all of us here in this room, from all the Mormon Stories podcast listeners out there, and from the 501 people still remaining, all you people on Periscope, I expect you to stand up wherever you are and clap right now. Let's give Jeremy Runnells our thanks for his efforts and our best wishes for Sunday.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. So just to close, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Sunday, 7 o'clock, American Fork. Go to cesletter.com to get the address. We hope to fill that parking lot with love for Jeremy. Please show up and support him. I can't tell you how much it meant to me to have so many of you there. So please come, show your support to Jeremy. Please show Utah that this is a story that matters to Mormons and that matters to Utah. If you know people in the media, please share this story with them and ask them why they're not writing about it. And if you have friends or family, please feel free to share with them, if it's appropriate, Jeremy's good work. And thank you so much for coming tonight. You made this a beautiful evening. It's a real leap of faith to do something like this, and you guys fulfilled that faith and made it something wonderful. So bless you all. Look for more of these events in the coming weeks and months. Go to mormonstories.org, and we'll be announcing who else we're going to have. But I hope to have more of this. But you're all beautiful. Thank you for coming, and you guys have a safe night driving home. And bless you all in Periscope land and on Mormon Stories.
Love you guys. Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks to Jake Jensen and Club at 50 West for hosting us tonight. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.